All right, but we're going to just jump right into it today. Moist Noodle, who's a good friend of mine and a great friend of mine, he sent this to me. He has been starting to work on YouTube. I've been pushing him for years, and he's made a YouTube video. It's called Rock, Paper, Scissors, Star Citizen Ships and Tactics. So if any of you are into combat at all, this sounds like a guide to that. So let's see. There's nothing in the description kind of telling me what the video is just yet, but I'm going to guess that's what it is. So let's see.
Ships are a core aspect of Star Citizen's gameplay, and their fancy trailers or one of Star Citizen's big annual events like IAE are probably why you back the game. But what ship is the right ship? Most of us start with humble beginnings, like the feisty Aurora MR or Mustang Alpha, but where do you go from there? Do you choose which ship looks the coolest, or do you take into consideration the task ahead? This is not meant to be a detailed combat guide for individual ships. If that's something you're interested in, let me know in the comments below.
Yes.
But rather,
You definitely should do that.
this video is meant to help you think critically about what ships you're using and how to use them best as a solo player or part of a group. We'll mainly be talking about PvP scenarios in this video, but what works for PvP will also work for PvE. Remember, if you find this guide useful, hit that like button, it really helps me out. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this one.
He's a pro already, guys. Look at this. It's a good one. Shows a good crew handles situations. Nice. Okay.
Going all the way back to 2012, Chris Roberts has talked about how he enjoys rock, paper, scissors or RPS style elements in video games, and that he wanted to bring this type of gameplay to Star Citizen, and this isn't unusual for multiplayer video games. Game designers will often use RPS as a way to attempt to bring balance to their games.
Yep.
And if you take a look at your collection of unplayed games on Steam, you'll find a number that do just this, some less obvious than others. Trading card-based games are popular for RPS, and one of the most obvious examples is Pokemon, where Pokemon's strengths and weaknesses are based on elemental types. Some Mario and Luigi games, such as Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story, use a power...
Now, I think that... Isn't that what's, like, really missing from this game? Is the RPS, like, it's not quite there, right?
A triangle system based off of the game's 3 attack types, melee, ranged, and flying. Doesn't that sound familiar? Even the Souls-like games don't escape. Boss fights tend to break down into an attack, defense, economy strategy. Attack being the stabby bit, defense being the roly bit, and economy being the bit where you take an action to support your character, such as drinking a potion. Blizzard's World of Warcraft is an extremely complex example. The game is made up of roles, damage, tank, and healing, and those roles are made up of a number of classes with abilities. You use the abilities appropriate to the type of target you're attacking.
Whoa, you have that many choices?
Due to the complex nature of World of Warcraft.
Sorry, I've never played WoW. I love MMOs, but I've never played WoW out of spite because it killed my MMO that I liked the most.
Bringing balance to the game has been a constant source of headache for Blizzard, and the game from patch to patch develops new metas as a result. Historically, Star Citizen has had a fairly linear ship meta that favoured a small handful of ships, whether it's the Sabre, the Super Hornet or Vanguard Sentinel. Yes, these ships were once meta, to the Blade, Gladius or Talon. Meta will never entirely go away. People will naturally want to min-max and get the most combat performance out of their ship, and that's fine. But historically, the meta in Star Citizen has pigeonholed players into flying specific ships
Gladius,
with specific
Arrow.
weapons in a specific flight style. Things now thankfully are a little different. That's not to mean that there aren't meta ships, there definitely are. But right now, Star Citizen is probably in the best place it ever has been in terms of ships diversity for PvP.
Really? Okay.
When it comes to rock, paper, scissors, and spaceships, what exactly does Chris mean? Well, just like...
Is UO got you into the Gospel of CR? No. Wing Commander Privateer did.
The hand-based game, where one ship might be strong against another, it should also be weak against another. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. Before we do, I'd like to preface that these examples are with future physicalized armor and master mode changes in mind, and also in a 1v1 scenario where both pilots are of equal skill. For example, an Anvil F7CM Super Hornet may be strong against a Drake Buccaneer. After all, the F7CM is an armored medium fighter with a co-pilot controlled turret, while the Buccaneer is a light fighter that's held together by the hopes and dreams of those that believe that CIG will one day give the Cutlass a bathroom. But what if the Super Hornet went up against an RSI Scorpius? The Scorpius is a more heavily shielded target than the Super Hornet and has considerably more firepower. Chances are it wouldn't stand a chance. How about something a little larger? The Hammerhead from Aegis is an armoured patrol ship with more turrets than you can shake a sausage at. In theory, it could go up against a wing of fighters, but thanks to its armour, those fighters would be ineffective. After all,
I see. So a lot of this is the future design of Star Citizen and not the current.
we're heading towards a future where small caliber weapons won't be able
can't
to
wait till we get
penetrate
there.
the armor of larger targets. But if fighters can't penetrate that armor, what can?
Missile.
Perseus from RSI is a sub-capital hunter. It comes equipped with a size 7 turret and a number of size 5 torpedoes, which means the Hammerhead would likely have an emotional rapid disassembly. I could keep giving theoretical examples, but I'd like to give a practical example from a recent stream.
Okay.
By the way, I stream daily on Twitch. Make sure you enter the giveaway over there.
Nice.
Myself and my org visited a recent in-game event and blasted it to smithereens. No, it wasn't IAE, we did that the week previously.
Jumptown.
Jumptown, for those that don't know, is a regular event where players can fight for drugs to sell at an increased price. I'm going to redact the actual org name here, but in our example, the facility is being held by an org that we'll call the SaltEMike Hair Preservation Society. I'm flying with my org, the Blue Buckets, a group of degenerate low-flyers who
What
spend the
the fuck?
majority of their time prospecting the rocks of Daymar using their faces.
Yo!
We need to scout the area, so let me introduce you to Sultan. He's not actually a Blue Bucket, he's more of a contractor that we've pulled in to assist. Sultan's in a Razor EX, a racing ship outfitted with signature reducing materials. Stealth is pretty scuffed right now in 321, but so is radar, and the Razor is pretty quick, so it'll get the job done. The Razor was also chosen for another role, but we'll come back to that later. Sultan takes the Razor down and with one quick flyby observes a number of ships. An Aegis Hammerhead patrol ship, an Aegis Redeemer gunship, and a number of light, medium, and heavy fighters.
So it's actually being
While
held
we're-
by somebody. I don't think it's being held by my org.
Aware of what ships are at the facility, our scout was unable to observe any ground vehicles or marines.
Was it?
As a general rule of thumb, we always bomb the ground using an A2 because we are such staunch believers in freedom and democracy, and nothing screams freedom and democracy like a size 10 bomb. It's at this point I should introduce you to Rogue Wyvern. He's really old and cranky and old, but unlike the average A1 pilot, he can actually drop a bomb on a target. Sending in our A2 first would make it an obvious target, so this is where our fighter wing comes in. I'm flying an Aegis Gladius, a light fighter, and my wingman is coasting flying an F8C, a heavy fighter, and the best ship in the game for running away. We have a second fighter team comprised of Zalrin in an Anvil Arrow and Lauren in a Crusader Ares Inferno. We'll talk more about these ships shortly. Our third team is comprised of Redrolled in an Anvil Hawk, a small fighter with an EMP device, great for knocking ships offline after they've lost their shields. We also have...
Are EMPs effective?
G.I. Joe in an Esperia Talon. Yes, that G.I. Joe from CitizenCon. Finally, we have Jimmy. No, not that Jimmy, this Jimmy. Jimmy has been a friend of mine for a number of years, and today he'll be flying the Aegis Eclipse like a true Frenchman. The Aegis Eclipse is a stealth bomber capable of carrying 3 size 9 torpedoes. At this point, you might be wondering why we ourselves have chosen not to bring a Hammerhead or a Redeemer, a Hurricane or a Scorpius. Right now, I place these ships in the Area of Denial category. The Hurricane and Scorpius can be helpful here, but they're 2-seater ships, and I'd rather have more numbers cluttering the radar to hide our A2 and Eclipse. As for the Hammerhead and Redeemer, they're great at defending areas, but not great at chasing once the fight moves away from the area.
Yeah.
This, however, will likely change with master modes.
Yeah, I mean, the Hammerhead and the Redeemer are the 2 ships that I am so curious how they're going to play out, because they're super fun. They are super, super fun to play with, but they don't work with the current, like, fly 1,200 meters per second constantly. Like, at Jumptown, I imagine we're going to start seeing some of the recording of what they did. It's not going to be at Jumptown within 30 seconds. It's going to be up in the air, super far away, so all their ships can engage both on the ground and up in the air. They're not taking anything that can't be involved in every bit of the fight. So, yeah, can't wait till that's not a thing. That's when, like, ground vehicles might be effective. That's when these gunships might be effective. I cannot wait for that, man. That too, 5-star, yeah.
As we approach Jumptown with our fighter wing, our plan is to stay out of the gun ranges of the Hammerhead and Redeemer and engage their fighters. However, while we're staying out of gun range, we will periodically fire missiles at the Hammerhead. I'll explain why we do this later. Rogue and the A2 will follow our fighter wing about 30 seconds later, with Jimmy and the Eclipse following behind. Myself and Coastin begin engaging an F-8C, and its shields are quickly shredded and it starts to run. This is where we come back to Sultan in the Razor LX. We didn't just bring it to scout, it's one of the few ships that's actually faster than the F-8C.
Gotcha.
Myself and Coastin break off to engage another target as not to waste time, and Sultan pursues the F-8C. When in larger group engagements like this, it's often not worth chasing targets, but better to swap to a target that's a higher threat, whether it be to yourself or others in your group. At this point, Zelrin in the Arrow and Lauren in the Ares Inferno engage the Redeemer. This group have been chosen specifically. The Arrow is fantastic in atmosphere and can help draw fire away from Lauren, and the Inferno has a size 7 ballistic Gatling gun.
Yeah.
This ship is literally designed to chew through larger, slower ships like the Redeemer, but at the same time, it's vulnerable to fighters. Rogue in the A2 has now closed in on Jumptown.
Do you think they've really got the balance down with those ships finally? The Ares? I feel like they do.
And the bomb is away.
I literally will turn to say, oh my, look at all the bombs. Those are all bombs, all those triangles.
As soon as the bomb blows, the jig is up, and the enemy are aware that there's an A2 on the field. As a result, I send Red Rolled in the Hawk and G.I. Joe in the Talon to support the A2. Rather than run, however, Rogue turns the A2 towards the Redeemer and assists Zelrin and Lauren with its ADB ballistic Gatling guns. Remember earlier I mentioned that our fighters would occasionally be firing missiles at the Hammerhead? You're probably wondering why. Well, here comes Jimmy, everyone, with his massive size 9 torpedo. Continuously firing small missiles at large targets often leads to their pilots becoming complacent and can mask a torpedo's approach. Jimmy fires the torpedo at its minimum range, which hits the target, destroying the Hammerhead.
Okay.
Remember guys, torpedoes have a distinctive sound. If you hear the sound of sizzling bacon, prepare to evade, or just fly into the torpedo. Either works.
Oh, he literally flew into it.
Now we've cleared out the Redeemer and the Hammerhead, it's time to mop up the fighters. Sultan in the Razor LX forced the F-8C that he was chasing to retreat and has rejoined the main fight. By this point, both Rogue in the A2 and Lauren in the Inferno have multiple fighters on them. I order both to retreat so they can rearm, and Sultan replaces Lauren as Zelrin's wingman.
Okay.
All that's left on the field is an enemy Hornet, a Vanguard Sentinel, a Cutlass Blue, and a Gladius. When assessing a battlefield, knowledge of the game, its ships, weapon systems, and your ability to prioritize targets really comes into play.
Listen, I know we talk about this occasionally. Me and Noodle were teammates in the original Fight or Flight, and we did really, really well. And the reason we did really, really well is we didn't know what ships we were going to be using, and we didn't know what ships we were going to be going against. The knowledge that Noodle had of like, okay, this is the strategy, this is what we're going to go with, this is how we're going to play it. Make sure you start low and then come high and do, this and that and all these things. And he would talk me through it the whole time. And yeah, did Noodle carry? Absolutely. But did he also teach really, 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 really well? Yes. I'm sorry, guys. Like, Noodle isn't the best pilot in that tournament, right? And he had probably one of the worst teammates, but because he told me what to do and I was at least somewhat capable of executing until the last match, unfortunately, we did well, right? And it was all because of his game knowledge on this ship versus that ship. This is how we should play it. That is Noodle's strength, by far, is that.
Who
and
do you send?
That's what this video is
and
all
after
about.
Which targets?
And this is why they're
Let's
having
take a
success
moment
here.
to think about what enemy ships are on the board,
Yeah, that,
but also about what tools
perfect.
those ships have in their arsenal and how it compares to our fighters. The Cutlass Blue is a heavy fighter which uses a dampener to prevent anyone within 2 kilometers from quantum jumping away. It also has a manned anti-fighter turret. As it stands, we have more people on the field than the enemy, and everyone is pretty safe for now, so I'm not too concerned about our ability to jump away. The Vanguard Sentinel has an anti-fighter turret and an EMP device, which will later be replaced with EMP missiles once they're in the game.
Oh, really?
This means
I forgot about that.
could shut down one of our ships if it gets a good hit with the EMP. EMPs have a max...
We had EMP missiles in the game for like a patch or like a couple of segments of a patch, I feel like.
maximum range. So when you see an EMP charging up, it's a big blue glowing ball. Back up and fight at range if your shield is down. EMPs can only stay charged for so long before they overheat. Once it does overheat, move back in. Something else to remember is that EMP's distortion damage falls off and gets weaker over range. The Hornet has a lot of firepower, but its main strength is its forward acceleration. It can get in close, unleash a lot of damage, and get back out before you even realize that they're there. The Gladius is one of the most maneuverable fighters in the game. While it doesn't have as much firepower as a ship like the Hornet, it can evade your shots and get behind you, but more importantly, it's good at chasing as well as merging onto a target and keeping its nose on that target. In this scenario, I would send Sultan in the Razor EX and Zelrin in the Arrow after the Gladius. The Razor LX can keep up and outmaneuver the Gladius. The Arrow has a slightly slower turn rate and top speed than the Gladius, but it can pull higher Gs. The Arrow also has a small profile when you're looking at it head-on, which makes it hard to hit when its nose is on target. It also has a tight jerk profile. Calm down, ladies.
I'll replay it, Sharp.
Which makes it quicker to aim at a pip than the Gladius. Jerk being how quickly your thrusters increase or decrease power. I'm going to send myself in the Gladius and coast in the F-8C against the Vanguard Sentinel. The F-8C can...
That made it seem like the triangle just made it seem the previous one that the the racing ship could kill the Gladius, but it
outmaneuver the
can't.
Sentinel. However, if the Sentinel gets the forward-facing shield of the F-8C down, the EMP could be problematic. I'm in the Gladius, a light fighter, and can easily outfly the Sentinel. However, I do need to watch out for that turret. The Gladius also comes with 2 size 1 shields, which makes tanking the EMP hit a little bit easier. I send Red Rolled in the Hawk and G.I. Joe in the Talon against the Hornet. As I mentioned earlier, the Hornet has incredible acceleration. However, the Talon...
Is it now confirmed that the Hornet's acceleration isn't like a bug and it is intended since it stayed this long? Because it's been like well over a patch cycle now.
has an incredible flight profile in atmosphere, and both the Hawk and the Talon can outrate the Hornet. When we're talking about rate, we're talking about how quickly a ship can turn, the turn rate. If the Hornet runs, the Hawk has a higher top speed than the Hornet and can catch up. At this point, all that's left is the Cutlass Blue, but unfortunately, the pilot is currently writing an angry post on Spectrum.
It's intended for now. Yeah, I mean, I guess everything's for now.
CIG regularly talks about the fact that they want players making choices, and in our example, we were doing just that.
Yeah,
What
a
ships
lot
to
of
bring,
choices.
What weapons, what order to send in ships, what teams do we send in and against who? When a friend needs help, who do we send to support them? And this is one of the things that makes Star Citizen so great, and why ship and weapon diversity is so good, although we're still waiting on that weapon rebalance, CIG.
Yeah, dude. Who would have thunk when they told us about this? How many? 3? We're going on 3 years, I think, with the same weapon metas basically the entire time. With distortion coming into the fold again more recently, but my goodness.
No ship in Star Citizen is supposed to be an I win button. Yes, when you're flying an Arrow and you don't have much experience, an F-8C might seem like a nightmare, or when you're flying a Vanguard Harbinger, a car to all might seem like death itself. That's not to say you can't beat those ships. Star Citizen is a skill-based game. If you watch my stream, you'll regularly catch me dogfighting in an Aurora MR. But where some ships are designed to be strong against others, those same ships are also designed to be weak against others. That Arrow, when thrown against an equally skilled pilot in, say, a Crusader Ares Ion, will decimate them. The Vanguard Harbinger, with its size 5 torps, would outfly and slaughter a Constellation. Again, Star Citizen is a skill-based game, but what ship you fly and what ship you fight will either make the
Wait, a Vanguard Harbinger has size 5 torpedoes?
fight easier or harder.
Really?
And let's not forget the environmental impact.
Or it
Always
can?
think about space and atmosphere. No matter what I'm flying,
See, I don't know
I'll
anything about
always try
PvP.
to avoid fighting an F-8C in atmosphere, because F-8C pilots are highly skilled professionals at flying backwards and sideways at 800 meters per second. Whenever I'm in my Aurora MR, I'll generally try to take the fight to space if it starts in atmosphere. But if I'm flying the Arrow, it's the other way around, again depending on what I'm fighting. Next time you
Yeah, this was something Noodle taught me during our fights, was like, hey, this ship doesn't do well in atmosphere, so the lower we are, the better against that ship. And yeah, that's how we did.
step out of your hab, ready for a grand space adventure, I encourage you to think about the task ahead and what ship you think would be best for the task. I get that
I always fly the F-8C, guys, because I am a pay-to-winner.
not everyone is a concierge or legatus with a fleet of ships and a pending divorce, but never be afraid to ask a friend or even in global chat to try out ships. I've been around this community for a long time, and if I've learned anything, it's that people are excited to share new experiences with others. If you have some examples of combat scenarios that you would like to share, feel free to do so in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button, and if you'd like to see more videos like this one in the future, or any of my daily YouTube shorts, hit that subscribe button. But for now, I've been Moist Noodle, and I'll shoot you in the verse.
Oh, that's a good outro too. That's pretty good. That was really good. What'd you guys think? So that's Noodle's like first video in a really long time. I think a lot of the videos he was doing before was more React style to the to like Spectrum and stuff. But this is his wheelhouse, man. That's his wheelhouse. More of that, Noodle. More of that. I think what we're missing, I think what this game community is missing is teachers, right? I remember saying it to Avenger, because for Avenger for a while was, getting involved in, I guess, more like of the org war stuff. And I guess you could see that a little bit with the rings. But yeah, just more like taking new players along and like that. I remember like Avenger 1 to me was, that was his element, was he was bringing new people into the PvP space by teaching them the way. And I think Noodle is maybe if Avenger 1, because he uses a lot of like, for me, like high terminology that it's like I'm not really sure what he's talking about. Noodle's like the kindergarten, and first grade and second grade is the at least the terminology that he's using. So for me, it's like it was so much easier to understand and so much easier to learn. Like we practiced for like an hour, and I felt like I learned so much in that hour. It was awesome. So yeah, man. Noodle, I hope he keeps doing this stuff, and yeah, that'll be awesome. So Noodle, you're the man. Keep it up. I hope this inspires you to do more and more and more. I hope a lot of people have said good things about the video before I even watched it. So keep it up, man. And just keep going. Keep grinding, because it's worth it.